Yachts for Sale and Charter YouTube channel here, opening a window into the world of yacht brokerage. Actually, a part of yacht brokerage is being familiar with the yachts that are built in various parts of the world. And today I'm with my team at 7:30 in the morning in Istanbul, visiting Turquoise, which is one of the most important super yacht builders on the world scene. They've kindly offered to show me how a yacht is built, right from the cutting of the first metal plates up until the time that it's delivered to the client. It's an exciting prospect. I asked them for permission to film as we go along the way, so join me for the ride. We've travelled about 30 miles from our airport hotel to the first facility of Turquoise, which is in a place called Chelly. This is Tim Levent Yordu, who not only watches the YouTube channel, but is also a marketing specialist with Turquoise Yachts and invited us to this tour, which is very kind of you, Tim.
Great having you here.
And really, we've started here because this is where the yachts start. This is where they cut the metal to make the hulls and the superstructures. They have 4 different sheds, and Tim's going to show me around them right now. This really is where it all starts. All that we've got here is just sheets of steel. This most likely is going to be a deck by the look of it, because the decks on a lot of these yachts, of course, have a steel base before they then put the teak on top of it. This, I suspect, is going to be a reinforcement, but this really is day one of the life of a super yacht, just in its rawest form. Yeah, these are tanks. This is really interesting. This is, I'm guessing, this is going to be turned the other way up. And then that will be a tank, surely. This is actually really interesting because here you get a real idea of the beam of the yacht. This is actually one of the decks. So this entire structure is turned upside down and will actually rest on top of the main deck, so that what you can see here will be the floor of the upper deck. And these 2 boxes here, actually he said he doesn't know exactly what they'll be, but they'll be maybe a pantry or a day head or some sort of an enclosed area. Basically the way it works is he'll have his designs and he knows exactly what he needs to make. He doesn't necessarily know exactly what the final destination is for the areas, but you can really see there the reinforcements and the structure and the detail that goes into building the superstructure. This shed, I believe, is 120 meters long, so they're able to lay out all of the sheets of metal, put this out, do welding. It's a lovely, comfortable environment for the workers to work in. I've seen shipyards which are a lot more cramped than this, and they really pack everything in, and it's difficult for the workers to do their job. This is glorious. So that's the superstructure for the 79 meter. So we've moved from one shed to the next shed. All of the components in the first shed were the superstructure of a 79 meter yacht that they're building. Here we have something totally different, because some time ago the shipyard bought a partially finished hull of a schooner. They worked with Dykstra Naval Architects to convert the hull to a sloop hull, and they're actually building this 51 meter sloop in this shed. I suspect this is a project of passion for Mehmet.
Certainly is. big sailor. He grew up sailing dragons on the Mediterranean Sea.
So Mehmet is the founder of Turquoise. I met him yesterday. Such a charming man and so passionate about yachts. And he's taken a big interest in this project. And this is being built on spec as a 51-meter sailing sloop with a very classic line. When we edit this video, I'll show you some images of what it will be like when it's finished. Oh look, this is that part of the keel. Yeah. So basically this is the general arrangement floor plan of the yacht, the way it was originally intended to be built. And this is with the adaptations made by Dykstra Naval Architects. So this is really what the shipyard will be following when they put the hull together. It's worth taking a look at that. It's a beautiful looking yacht.
Have been completed more or less.
So I'll take advantage of a moment of silence in the yard, which otherwise, as you can imagine, is very noisy with a lot of work going on with the metal. But here you really get an impression of the size of this yacht. This is 51 meters, very beamy, and you also get an idea of the construction quality behind. You can see all those reinforcement ribs running along. You can see that they've actually heightened the bulwarks on the side. That was a modification they'd made to the original design because they felt that's a little bit safer when you're out long distance cruising. And it's going to be really fascinating to see how this project develops until it becomes a finished yacht. But I hope you've enjoyed looking on board as much as I have. It's so impressive. Well, this is interesting. This is a brand new CNC cutting machine. It's actually built in Turkey. And maybe one of the things that I really want to put across to viewers who've never been to Turkey is this is an incredibly industrial country. Everywhere you go, there's buildings, there's thriving businesses. It's maybe not the perception that some people who've never been here get, but it's the reality of this country. To correct what I said earlier, in the first sheds, those were not steel plates, they were aluminium plates, because obviously that's for the aluminium superstructure. But this machine can cut steel, cut aluminium, cut chrome, and it's obviously being kept very busy. So as you saw, straight off of the CNC cutting machine, the plates are loaded and brought here where they're building a 78.9 meter long super yacht. And it's so exciting to see it in these early stages, and the steel is taken and then fitted straight onto the yacht. Just something else interesting that I've just learned. You may recall that some time ago I did a video about how they connect aluminium, how they weld aluminium to steel. It's a very complex process, or a very technical process, to be more correct, because steel and aluminium, if they put them together, have a very bad chemical reaction. So in the Turquoise shipyard, they keep the two materials actually separate in two separate sheds. They don't even let them close to each other for fear of that chemical reaction. It's a very well disciplined shipyard with all the precautions made to make sure that the finished product is just superb. This, by the way, is why the most successful yacht builders keep the steel cutting and the metal cutting facility far away from their second shipyard where they fit the yachts out. It's a very dusty and frankly a very dirty job. Cutting steel and welding it all together does create a lot of dust, and as you can imagine, when you get to the final stage of construction of a yacht, dust is your worst enemy. It can get into the paintwork, it can get everywhere. In this case, the Turquoise fitting out facility that we'll be looking at later is about 30 miles away, back towards the airport. And Turquoise took this so seriously that they took their fitting out facility from this end of Istanbul, where there's a lot of industrial work going on. There's soot from the stacks of those big oil tankers and cargo ships that you can see. They took it 30 miles away to be away from all that industrial pollution so that they could have the cleanest possible working conditions. Another thing worth mentioning is that this 79-meter yacht, of course, now has to travel 30 miles to the fitting out facility. One of the reasons they have this big dock area that's actually right in front of me and behind you is that it enables them to transport the hull a lot more easily, but we'll be seeing how they do that a little later. First, I want to show you something very interesting just over there. So I wanted to show this to you because while on the one side we have the 79-meter yacht at a very advanced stage of construction, over here, that curved structure there is the very first plates being put together for the keel of an 87-meter yacht. It will be the largest yacht ever constructed in Turkey. And to be able to see it at this point and then know that in the future we'll be able to see it as a finished yacht, I think is really quite exciting. So that's why I wanted to show that to you. Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, the metalwork facility is kept very separate from the fitting out facility, which we're going to now. But first, we're going to visit a third facility where they do the interiors, which again are made separately. So basically the metalwork and the interiors come together at the third facility where it's all put together. Let's go and have a look at the interiors now. So this is the company that does all of the interiors for Turquoise Yachts. They've been working with Turquoise for 25 years. And as you can see, it's a fairly big business in itself with their own design team that takes the ideas and the images of the interior designer that the client's using and converts them into actual executive drawings that the production team can use to actually manufacture those interiors. So here's the design office. Let's take a look at the production facility here. So this part of the factory is really where the plywood is kept because, as you know, on yachts, weight is a big factor, and so a lot of marine grade plywood is used. From the design team, executive drawings are put onto the computer, that information is fed into the cutting machine, and then you can see here that this machine cuts the plywood to the exact size that it needs to be. This is actually a great example of how the whole system works because here we have pieces of plywood that are being cut to measure and also pieces of wood which are cut in a different area of the factory that we'll look at in a few moments. It's all put together here to make sure that it fits correctly, and then it's all disassembled as some parts will be varnished, some will have upholstery added to it. This will probably have a mirror added to it here. and then it could be all put back together, confident that it's all going to fit and it's all going to look the way that it should. I would imagine probably this will have marble or granite on top, but in any case, everything's prepared, ready to be finished, and then assembled on the yacht itself. These are the veneers. They take obviously a piece of wood and they cut it very, very finely to form the veneers for the final cabinetry. And you can see this is obviously a very skilled workman here who's actually applying the veneers to that marine plywood. And the final effect that you see on yachts, and you'll see many of my walkthrough videos, is really spectacular. So this is the workstation where some of those first rough installations and assemblies are made. The yacht's had the veneer applied to it. The worker here has an image of what the final cabinet should look like. He knows where it is on the yacht exactly, how it should look, and is able to assemble this amazing furniture together before it's then disassembled and completely finished upstairs. That was really interesting actually, because I've often noticed on yachts that they'll have plywood on the floor while the yacht's being constructed with various lines in the plywood, which is really a template as to where the various pieces of furniture have to go. So basically what we've got here is quite remarkable. We have 150 people cutting wood to size, varnishing it, putting veneer on it, putting it together, taking it apart, bringing it up here, reassembling it to make sure it fits the template that's already on the yacht before eventually it will make its way to the yacht, and they have no doubt at all that it will definitely fit because this matches the template that they've supplied to the yacht builder.
Every piece is written. The base, the top, the wall panel, the window frame, everything right in here. And he make all the pieces also a number.
Evidently every single piece that's cut has its own unique number. That helps them to trace where they're at with the actual construction, but we were just saying how useful that is as well, because if you have a turquoise yacht and something happens that puts a big scratch across one of the cabinetry and you need to get it repaired or replaced, you can find out what number it is and they know exactly how to cut it to the exact size, how to refabricate it again and send it through to you for replacement. That's a pretty neat thing to be able to do and really interesting to learn about. Thanks. Oh, these are hinges?
Yeah, these are hinges.
So you make the hinges
everything,
too?
Everything. Handles, hinges.
Why do you do that instead of just buying the hinges?
The quality.
Another very interesting thing, this is a hinge of a door on a turquoise, and I said to him, why do you make the hinges? Why don't you just buy them? Without hesitating for a second, he said, quality. Quality. They can control the quality, the actual shine on it's better, the quality of it's better, it will be more long lasting. Really interesting stuff to know that even the hinges are made here. Oh, it's the sink.
Sink, yeah, sink.
That's the plug hole.
Yes.
Can I see? One of the things that's really come out of this trip is how passionate everybody is about what they do and how much they love their job. And this gentleman was really keen to show me the quality of the stainless steel. There's no welds on it. They even make the plug holes, I suppose you'd call it, in the sinks out of stainless steel. And he was very keen to show me as well. The quality is incredible. Sometimes you can look at these super yachts and wonder why they cost so much. This goes some way to explaining where that money goes. It's real craftsmanship. What's that handle for?
This is handle for sliding door.
Oh,
you
okay.
know, for sliding door.
Yeah,
We can't use this one. They are thin.
Yeah. when the individual pieces of wood come up here, if it's a curved piece of wood, it's varnished by hand. If it's a flat piece of wood, there's actually a machine that does the varnish. Of course, it's varnished, sanded, more varnish added, more sanding, more varnish, until you get that really beautiful deep gloss finish. And he was explaining to me that one of the most important things for them is to make sure that these angles fit perfectly. And I have to say, from having been on hundreds and hundreds of super yachts, that one of the things that you do notice with the really high quality yachts over the slightly less quality is when they just don't get the cabinetry quite right. It doesn't just look wrong, although you could be forgiven for not even noticing, but when these edges don't meet properly, it can result in squeaking as the yacht moves around. So the joinery, the joining, which is joinery I guess, of the wooden pieces together is absolutely fundamental, not just to the appearance of the yacht, but also to the user experience at the end of it.
Master for the
Yep.
varnish, the varnish work.
So there's not much you can do once that starts to go milky. It's,
yes.
yeah.
Exactly the process.
Another interesting conversation regarding quality control. As you remember, every single piece has its own unique number that goes in this book. And when it's finished, in this case, it's a beautiful piece of lacquered, I believe probably plywood, but beautifully lacquered. There's no orange peel, it's lovely shine to it. And so then the quality controller will come along, he'll tick it off as having been a completed piece of wood in the book. If it's good, it gets this sticker on the back. Otherwise, a note goes into the book as to exactly what the problem is, and they can decide how to handle that problem. It might be something they can repair, or otherwise they'll have just to have to redo the piece altogether. Then when it gets to the shipyard, again, they go through the book number by number at the shipyard to make sure that each piece is absolutely perfect as it should be. So he's mixing the varnish.
The varnish and he makes the color test.
They mix the paints here, and as you can imagine, getting the colour right is pretty damn important, and so they have an incredible system. All of those there are different pigments, different colours, and they're connected up to a computer. The computer will say exactly how many kilograms of yellow and how many kilograms of red need to be mixed. So they get mixed from these pigments here, connected to the computer. Then it gets put on some scales there to make sure the weight is right. But if they've got the elements wrong, the computer immediately sends them an alarm to tell them that they've got it wrong and they need to do it again. So there's absolutely nothing is left to chance here. They don't look at the paint and look at a colour board and say, yeah, that looks about right. There's an absolute precise formula as to what the colour should be, and it's checked out by the computer here as well. If you thought yacht building was easy, this really shows what great lengths that people go to make sure it's done absolutely right. So then when everything's been cut, assembled, taken apart, varnished, painted, sanded, glossed, put back together again, and is absolutely perfect, as you can see, we've got some finished cabinetry here, which looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, real super yacht quality furniture that's ready to be taken to the shipyard, where we'll have one final check and then be installed on the finished yacht. And actually that is a great segue to the fact that now we're going to go and take a look at the shipyard, which is found in Tuzla. The construction facility here in Tuzla is where most of the clients will probably go to actually see the yacht being built. It's a pretty impressive facility, as you can see. And here you have the yachts being fitted out, you have the design departments, which we'll be looking at in a few moments, marketing, the accounts department. This is, if you like, the central base for Turquoise. And Tim, who's been showing us around today, is a marketing specialist with Turquoise, and a great example of the kind of people that they employ. It's a pretty international setup. Tim comes from an English and Turkish family. The CEO, Patrick, is from Sweden. There are people here from Denmark, all highly qualified individuals. The design department, as I mentioned, we'll be looking at in a moment. There's about 40 people working there, most of them qualified naval architects. That said, let's take a look inside. It's actually really good of Turquoise to allow us to film here today, because they've got so many yachts in construction, and some of the newer yachts are bigger than ones that they've ever built before. They're having to completely rearrange and expand their office facilities. As you know, we're in the design office now. There are things in boxes ready to be moved to other locations. This floor actually wasn't down yesterday. They've just finished laying the floor. Other areas in the shipyard are completely being refurbished. So under those circumstances, I think it's really rather decent of them to let us film here. Now, the design office does a lot more than just drawing yachts. There are so many different projects on the go all the time. Turquoise are well known for working with different designers, Chelly, H2, all kinds of different worldwide designers. And of course, the design team have to interact with those external designers. Apart from that, there's technical jobs to do. They have to look at the naval architecture of the yacht. They have to look at details like the air conditioning, the AV system. They have to interact with suppliers. They interact with the furniture company that we've just been to see. They have to look at every little detail, from hinges on doors to the layout of a carpet to where the lighting is going to go. So this is a particularly busy and essential part of the Turquoise operation. I wanted to show you this first of all because Etam is a subscriber to the channel, so I particularly wanted to show you the work that he does. But the 79-meter yacht that we saw in Chelly, which is currently just the hull, look at the detail they've already gone into the engine room. They know exactly where everything's going to go, and Etam here can actually pretty much walk through the engine room looking at all of the details. I've never seen anything quite like this, actually. It's amazing. Finally, we've got to the part where the yachts are assembled, and it's a very, very impressive structure indeed. Turquoise have 6 yachts in construction and 3 in project development. Only one of those yachts is actually not sold to a client, and that's that large sailing yacht, Rainbow 2, that we saw earlier. Interesting opportunity for somebody to take a look at if they're wanting to buy a large sailing yacht. But particularly interesting is the various stages of construction that we've seen. Earlier in Chelly, we saw the beginnings of that 87-meter, and then earlier today there was a practically finished yacht, Chelly design, which we saw leaving to go off on its sea trials. So you have beginning, end of construction, and just about everything in between. Talking of Chelly, they actually have 2 Chelly designed yachts in construction. We're going to take a look at one of them now, and in particularly some of the details that goes into how they build these yachts. We're on the 75-meter Chelly designed yacht, and I really wanted to show you this because it's quite ingenious. This whole area will be dedicated really for a beach club, and as you can probably see through there, it'll have side opening doors and also a rear opening transom door. Now typically what happens with the rear opening transom doors is they'll either be hinged from the top and they'll open upwards, in which case they create a lot of shade, which is not always desirable, or they open up as a swim ladder, in which case this area has to stay open. The owner of this yacht really wanted the best of both worlds, so he's created, or actually the shipyard has created, a door within a door so that this whole area can close down and become a swim ladder, and all of this area under us is part of the hull. That's important because sometimes a swim ladder, a swim platform, when it opens, you get slapping of the waves underneath. That won't happen here because we're actually in the hull. Then within this door, there's a second door which then opens up and closes the aperture. Now what that means is that this can be a closed area, but you can still have a very large platform as a swim platform, as well as your beach club inside. I just thought it's a very, very clever design, and I wanted to show it to you. Either here or there. Put something to one side. Aha. That's what I wanted to show. You may have heard me talking before about floating rooms in a super yacht, where the floors are floating, the ceilings are floating, and it's all really designed to prevent vibration on board. In the case of Turquoise, they use this rather ingenious little gadget here with a rubber stopper on it, and the steel actually goes all the way through into the rubber, and it's adjustable, and it basically fits into the ceiling here, and the ceiling is then resting on this. I should be able to find you a piece of ceiling to show you exactly how that works. So actually I couldn't find a panel to show it to you, although we're getting some close-ups of a piece already fitted. But basically this fits into a groove that then the ceiling hangs on to give the anti-vibration that it needs. But the groove also allows the panel to be moved, slid backwards and forwards, so it has a perfect fit on the ceiling. Again, I thought it was a rather ingenious design, and it's a design that was done by Turquoise themselves, so it's quite unique to their yachts. The final detail I wanted to show you on this yacht is actually found in the engine room. There's a huge double-decker engine room here, so much work going on that we're not able to film everything because it becomes quite complicated. But this is actually the extractor for the air extraction from the engine room. And what I wanted to point out to you is the level of soundproofing. All of these blocks that you see here are for soundproofing of the air, because you'd be surprised how much noise air can make. It's not just that though, they've also given the thought of having a gentle curve to it. I remember when I first got into yachting, attending an air conditioning class that was held in a shipyard, and they were explaining how sharp corners are the worst possible thing with airflow because of the amount of noise that it makes. Here you've got the soundproofing, you've got the curve, and it all makes, again, for a more pleasurable experience on board. Well, to put things in context, the yacht that we've just looked at started life in that first facility there in Chelly, 30 miles away. But I asked the question before, and I'll ask it again now, how did they deliver it 30 miles? Did they just sail it down the sea until they got here? Well, the answer is behind me. This is what's called a floating dock. Now, you can buy these commercially, but actually Turquoise said, we have a shipyard, let's build our own, and we'll build it to the exact size that we need in the exact way that we need it. Let's take a look and see exactly how the floating dock works. So as you can see, this is an absolutely huge platform, and it was built so it would be exactly at the same level as the dock in Chelly, allowing the workers to trailer out that huge hull that we saw. All of these shapes here are positioned to be in exactly the right place to support the hull, and then the hull will literally sit on that cradle there. So the entire structure sails all the way to Chelly. The hull is loaded on, then it's brought all the way here and offloaded and put into one of those 4 sheds that we've seen where the yacht can then be completed. Then it's brought out as a completed yacht. It's put right back on there again. And underneath my feet are huge tanks that fill with water, allowing the entire floating dock to actually become a sinking dock. It literally sinks, leaving the yacht floating on the water, where it can just sail away and go back into position at the dock and have basically the sea trials and be delivered eventually to the owner as well. It's a fantastic system. It works very well, and it's rather less stressful on the yacht itself to just be lowered gently in the water in that way, rather than picked up with cradles or sent down a ramp, which sometimes things can go very wrong when that's done. It's a wonderful way of launching a yacht. And that is how they build a yacht at the Turquoise Shipyard. One facility in Chelly to do all the metalwork with all the right equipment, custom built transport to bring it down here to the second facility, and of course a separate location for all the interiors, so it all comes together to make some of the world's most wonderful super yachts. I have to say, from this visit, I as a broker would not hesitate to bring a client to this shipyard. I find the facility to be modern, clean and efficient. The management's fantastic and multinational. Patrick, who I did a live stream with yesterday, is extremely eloquent and the kind of guy that you'd feel you could trust with a big contract. And of course, it's a great location, very close to the Sabiha Gökçen airport in Istanbul. If you do fly in here, make sure that you do fly to that airport, because it's so close to Tuzla. And I hope you do fly in here one day. I hope you are able one day to buy a super yacht, but if not, Turquoise is certainly a brand to dream about.